Testing audio.
Yep, I can hear you.
Great, thank you.
And record the.
Okay, we can go ahead and begin. Thank you for joining us for the pre-submittal conference regarding RFP number 56974 for the Driver Resource Center. My name is Adam Weller, and I am the Assistant Commissioner with the City of Chicago's Office of Labor Standards. We may be joined later during the Q&A session by some subject matter experts. If those individuals are able to join us, I will introduce them at that time. So the purpose of this pre-submittal conference is to answer questions from not-for-profit organizations and community-based organizations who are interested in operating a driver resource center for licensed public chauffeurs in the city of Chicago. If you are a public chauffeur, including TMP drivers, interested in learning more about these resources, the Driver Resource Center will provide more information in the first quarter of 2026. Once a delegate agency is selected, more information will be available for interested public chauffeurs. So just reiterating that this conference's audience should be organizations interested in operating the Driver Resource Center. So for today's pre-submittal conference, the outline is below here. We'll give an overview of our department as a whole, which is Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, also known as BACP, and an overview of the two divisions of BACP, which are administering the program. We'll give a program overview for the Driver Resource Center program. We'll talk about eligibility, budget and program expenses, fund reimbursement, reporting requirements, scoring criteria for applicants, and details of the contract. We'll review the RFP timeline, and we will have an opportunity to hopefully answer any questions you may have at the end. So an overview of our department, Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, we ensure a fair and vibrant marketplace for businesses, workers, and consumers in the city of Chicago. BACP licenses businesses and public vehicles. We regulate business activity, protect consumers from fraud, enforce Chicago's labor laws. We partner with business service organizations, and we provide education and resources for businesses. BACP is comprised of 8 different divisions. 2 of those divisions are going to be administering this program. Those 2 divisions are the Office of Labor Standards, to which I belong, and our Public Vehicle Licensing and Inspections division. An overview of the Office of Labor Standards. We are dedicated to promoting and enforcing Chicago's labor laws. We seek to engage communities and protect workers through a strong investigation and enforcement regime. OLS processes complaints, conducts investigations, we mediate disputes, direct settlement proceedings, we issue violations, and if necessary, we can seek licensure discipline against employers. We provide outreach and education to employers and to workers. The other division administering the program is the Public Vehicles Division, and they oversee the licensing of Chicago's public chauffeurs and public passenger vehicle businesses. The different types of driver or public chauffeur license types that they issue are for taxis, liveries, transportation network providers, those are the ride hails or TMPs, and pedicab drivers. For the vehicle public passenger vehicle business license types, they license the aforementioned types along with Medicar, charter sightseeing, private ambulance, and water taxis. They also provide such programs as Chicago Ride Smart, which provides tips on smartly engaging taxi cabs and other for-hire vehicles in Chicago, and the wheelchair accessible taxis, also known as WAV. Request for a WAV taxi can be made to the City of Chicago's wheelchair accessible taxi cab centralized dispatch number at 1-888 WAV cabs, or by downloading the Curb app. There's also an abundance of valuable data available publicly through the City of Chicago data portal specific to public vehicle licenses. You can access this type of data for public passenger vehicles, public passenger vehicle inspection schedule, public chauffeurs, taxi trips, TMP vehicles, TMP drivers, and TMP trips. Just to give you an idea of the quantity of drivers that this driver resource center should work with, we have, as of July 2025, 58,000 active TMP drivers, 2,757 taxi cabs that are available for hire, 3,800 livery vehicles, and 143 active pedicabs. So let's give an overview of the program itself. So for the Driver Resource Center, this center should provide direct representation, support, and outreach and education services for all BACP licensed public chauffeurs, and this includes TMP drivers. The selected delegate agency will provide services to City of Chicago licensed public chauffeurs, and for TMP drivers, they must either perform the majority, which is defined as 75% or more for the purpose of this RFP, 75% or more of their TMP work within the geographical boundaries of the City of Chicago, or they themselves must reside within the geographical boundaries of the City of Chicago. The chosen delegate agency will work in partnership with the City of Chicago to create outreach and education materials and to enforce the legal rights of public chauffeurs. The capabilities of program applicants must align with all the program categories described in greater detail in the remainder of today's conference. So the program budget is going to be up to $250,000. That contract term will begin on January 1st, 2026 and run through December 31st, 2026. There will be an option of 2 one-year extensions. That will be at the discretion of BACP based on the availability of funds, the need to extend services, and the performance of the chosen delegate agency. The delegate agency should provide assistance to qualified TMP drivers facing deactivation and in appealing their deactivation from TMP platforms. They should conduct outreach and provide education and information on the public chauffeur industry, including licensure by BACP, best practices, any safety concerns, maintaining access to TMP platforms, and providing cultural and language-specific training on any available services and programs. They will conduct outreach and provide education on legal rights and protections for public chauffeurs. This includes outreach for any new city, state, or federal legislation that passes, which provides public chauffeurs with additional rights and protections. They will assist public chauffeurs in filing a complaint or a referral to the appropriate government agency which has jurisdiction over their legal rights. They should also provide legal assistance for civil litigation. So let's discuss eligibility. BACP will provide funding to one or more qualified not-for-profit organizations that are also a community-based organization to operate the Driver Resource Center. For the purposes of this RFP, a community-based organization is an organization that operates within the Chicago, Naperville, Elgin, Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin metropolitan area, as it is defined by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Priority will be given to delegate agencies that have an expertise in providing outreach, education, and support to low-wage, vulnerable workers on successfully doing their jobs, and also providing consultation and direct representation to low-wage, vulnerable workers in grievance or legal proceedings, expertise in sharing information effectively and in a culturally appropriate and trauma-informed way, and the ability to speak and develop educational materials in languages other than English. I want to note that applicants with existing contracts with the city that are not in good standing will not be considered for new funding. In addition, applicants that have had a city contract terminated for default are not eligible to respond to this RFP. Respondents that do not meet all eligibility requirements will not have their applications evaluated. Incomplete applications will also not be evaluated for this funding opportunity. Applicants must also complete a program budget outlining all detailed expenses in its entirety for this proposal, including salaries, program materials, and marketing. So we want to see the full picture. Once you log into iSupplier, which we will discuss soon, there will be several documents that you need to complete. The budget form is one of those documents. We want to see how you plan to use the funding for this program. Some of the detailed expenses include program staffing, such as staff time and consulting fees for program management and administration, data tracking and evaluation, any indirect costs, which is can include facilities and administrative expenses, and those may be charged in accordance with uniform guidance requirements. Any operating expenses, so materials necessary to design and conduct the proposed program, and also for marketing and outreach expenses to promote the program. So this is a reimbursable grant. This means your organization will cover the initial expenses and then be reimbursed by the city through a vouchering program. So the delegate agency will front the cost, which means that you'll have to have access to the finances to perform the services prior to the reimbursement. There are also reporting requirements. So the delegate agency will be required to track a range of metrics using BACP mandated platforms and will report on targets outlined above and as defined in the executed contract. A portion of these will be measured against preset agency targets as part of their contractual obligation, while others will be collected for information gathering purposes for the city. The delegate agency is expected to provide monthly reports to BACP, including quantitative updates and qualitative descriptions of the current efforts being undertaken to meet the objectives. The grantee will also provide qualitative descriptions of successes and for the challenges that it faces. Some examples of quantitative reporting include the quantity and types of outreach and education and training activities, types of intakes with public chauffeurs, languages used by drivers during their services, including intake activities, quantities and outcomes of driver account deactivation proceedings where the delegate agency provided representation, and the number of staff hours spent on this representation, the number and voluntary demographic information, including residents of drivers reached and assisted with their legal rights and/or to support their ability to successfully do their job. For the qualitative portion, that includes describing trends and issues identified through the deactivation process activities. Also for Driver Resource Center intake activities and Driver Resource Center outreach, education, and training activities conducted to inform drivers about their legal rights and support their ability to successfully do their jobs. Also feedback from drivers, feedback from subcontractor partners, agencies providing resources, and also gathering stories and information about the impact of local, state, or federal legislation, which affords TMP drivers additional rights. So each applicant will be scored based upon their application. Proposals will be scored with 100 being the maximum score, and that is broken down into the 5 following categories. The first one being organizational capacity, and that's worth 35 points. And that includes a review of the history, mission, and philosophy of the organization. Any specific knowledge and experience the organization has in providing outreach, education, and support to low-wage and vulnerable workers, and the expertise in providing consultation and direct representation to low-wage and vulnerable workers in grievance or legal proceedings. The other 35-point category is going to be under project description. So we're seeking a trusted community partner. So we will ask how you plan to build trust within communities to empower those workers. The applicant should plan to provide monthly qualitative reports detailing program activities, and we'll want to know how you will develop and conduct training courses on public chauffeur rights. A 10-point category is creative and administrative skills. So we'll ask that you describe your budget plan, identify staff, salaries, timelines, and deliverables for the life of the contract. You'll complete the required budget form and attach it to your submission. We'll also want to see the experience that the agency has with graphic design and marketing. There will be 10 points for the commitment to equity and access category, where the applicant will describe their ability to share information effectively and in a culturally appropriate and trauma-informed way. We'll ask how you plan to engage with underrepresented or marginalized communities. And another 10 points for demonstrated ability to communicate. So the applicant will need to describe their ability to speak and develop educational materials in languages other than English. How will you provide services to individuals with limited English proficiency? So the anticipated contract period, as we stated before, will be from January 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2026, with those optional two 1-year extensions. Also at the discretion based on the availability of funds, the need to extend services, and the performance of that delegate agency. So how does an agency apply? So you'll need to complete an application for this RFP in the e-procurement iSupplier system. iSupplier is the only way to apply. We cannot accept applications outside of this system. Full disclosure, it is not an easy system to navigate, so we recommend that you familiarize yourself as soon as possible. Please take a look at the application, and if you do not already have access to iSupplier, we recommend that you begin that process as soon as possible. Only one response or application may be submitted per iSupplier user ID. So the timeline. The RFP due date for applications is going to be Wednesday, November 5th at 12 p.m. Central. We will begin reviewing applications immediately upon that due date. Decision notification will happen during the month of December. That's when we will select a delegate agency. If you want to review this pre-submittal conference in the future, this will be uploaded to the BACP YouTube channel. It is currently being recorded. I want to note that all proposals that are received by the deadline will undergo a technical review to determine whether all required components have been addressed and included. Proposals that are determined by BACP to be incomplete will not be considered. BACP reserves the right to waive irregularities that, within its sole discretion, that we determine to be minor. If such irregularities are waived, similar irregularities in all proposals will be waived. Proposals that are determined to be complete will be forwarded to a review panel. So in advance of having your iSupplier account set up, if you want to publicly access the RFP, I laid out some steps for you to access it. So first, you have to visit the city's e-procurement website. That link is listed. At that page, you will click the e-procurement bid and solicitation opportunities button. It is a rectangular orange button that states e-procurement bid and solicitation opportunities. That will take you to a page with a list of proposals. In order to help filter, I recommend selecting the active status from the drop-down and click Go. That will remove any that were previously issued that are not currently active. So this will reduce the amount of proposals that you will see. At that point, you can scroll down to find solicitation number 56974, or for easier access, you may wish to sort a specific column. If you click the triangle next to program model, that was the most effective way to help sort that column to have our RFP appear towards the top. And at that point, solicitation number 56974 should appear near the top. Once you find solicitation 56974, there is an eyeglass icon to the far right under details. Once you click the eyeglasses, it will open a new page where there is a document section and a highlighted or an activated PDF file. If you click that hyperlink next to the document, the RFP document will download and should open in a new tab, and you can access the full RFP. So our contact information at the Chicago Office of Labor Standards, our email address is bacplaborstandards@cityofchicago.org. That is the preferred email address to submit any questions about this RFP. The deadline to submit any questions is going to be Friday, October 31st at 3 p.m. So if you have any questions, please send those in. Another very important contact is going to be the iSupplier help desk. We receive a lot of questions about iSupplier itself, but we are not able to answer any questions about iSupplier because we do not manage that system. So, important phone number, 312-744-HELP or 744-4357. They're available Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Or if you prefer to email, you can email at customersupport@cityofchicago.org. And that is specific to any issues or hangups that you're having regarding the iSupplier system, creating an account, anything within that system. If there are general questions about the RFP itself, please email us at the BACP Labor Standards email address. At that point, we can open it up to questions and answers. If there are any questions, I also want to point out that we are joined by our Director of the Office of Labor Standards, Miguel Campos. So if any questions pop up, we'd be happy to answer them.
Adam, AJ has his hand on. If you want to allow him, or you should be able to click and give them the ability to speak. Or I saw their hand raised down again. So AJ, if you had a question, or they typed it into Q&A.
Yes, it says hi.
So their hand is, okay, they're typing now. Okay.
Sure. Okay, so the question is, can you please clarify if a for-profit can partner with a nonprofit to pursue this work? What are the working expectations, as in 5 days, 9 to 4, or is it open to interpretation? So the contract will be awarded to a not-for-profit organization. If you plan to work with a for-profit partner or any other third-party agency, that will need to be included within your application so that we can review that and have that discussion. As far as working hours, we want to reach as many workers as possible. Miguel, did you have any specifics as far as the hours of operation for the program?
No, and to expand a little on what Adam stated, yeah, the main recipient would be the non-for-profit or the community-based organization, but they are definitely able to subcontract with a for-profit agency. For example, if you don't have mass printing capabilities and you're gonna partner with somebody that does, that would just have to be detailed out in the proposal that you're presenting and in your budget form. And then the same thing for expectations for working hours. It's dependent on each applicant and what they are proposing that they want to do. There are no set expectations. It's dependent on each applicant. Someone might be offering services including weekends. Other people might be during operating hours, or they'll respond within 24 hours, 48. There might be an online component that perhaps is offering like longer services, but that is open to any idea that someone wants to propose. And again, as long as it's part of the submittal, then we'll go through that thorough review process and choose the one that makes the most sense to the city. But AJ, you're able to propose whatever it is that you want to present in the submission. Barring any additional, or there's one more unless it's
Yeah, I'll read that aloud if you want to take
Go
this
ahead.
one. You mentioned a follow-up component of contesting on behalf of drivers to livery service. Can you expand on this?
So that was part of the representing specifically a TMP driver. So if they've been deactivated by a transportation network provider, that you would either be referring them to an entity where they can contest being deactivated based on that specific TMP's deactivation policy or procedure, or referring them to someone that can represent them to attempt to re-engage or be activated again on that specific platform. We will stay on for an additional 2 minutes if anyone has any questions. If not, again, this is being recorded. It'll be available on BACP's YouTube page. There'll be a direct link to the recording on the Labor Standards website while this RFP is open for submissions. And then it'll be an evergreen video that'll be hosted on BACP's YouTube channel. If anyone has any questions, again, contact information's on the page. Feel free to send a question to BACP Labor Standards at cityofchicago.org. But we will keep the recording going for an additional 2 minutes in case any attendants this morning wish to type in further questions.
Okay, it doesn't appear that we have any more questions, so we will conclude this informational pre-solicitation conference. Again, if you have any questions, please send them to our BACP Labor Standards at cityofchicago.org email address, and we will respond to you with the answers that you are seeking. Thank you for your time this morning. Have a great day.